Much more on the situation there prior to the elections. We're joined by our UK correspondent, Jonathan Sacerdoti. Good to have you with us again, Jonathan. Now, are we looking at this upcoming election? It appears, at least outwardly, to be essentially a second Brexit referendum.
Well, David, we've got to say, first of all, as we do on any news programme about any election in any country, there is a health warning that goes with polls these days. They're not always right. In fact, quite often they're not right. But what's interesting about this YouGov poll is that it actually is one that was more accurate last time in predicting the hung parliament that was the result of the elections. And so people are looking at it with great detail. You can see from these results that the big news item, the headline, is that the Conservative Party is expected to win a majority. That would see them really doing what Boris Johnson had hoped for. That would be the 43% there. What's good about this poll as well is that it doesn't just give percentages, but it looks at seats won, which is the way the UK system works. Unlike the Israeli system, for example, there isn't a list of MPs. Each regional area has an MP from various parties to choose from. And if the Conservatives win first past the post, let's say, in a specific constituency, they then have that seat in Parliament. And these graphics that you can see are showing just that would give a swing towards the Conservatives. The Liberal Democrats really only gaining one seat because they'd lose some, and the Labour Party not doing well at all, which would comfortably put Boris Johnson in a position to carry out his Brexit plans and indeed to pursue a legislative agenda in a domestic setting that would be more in line with how British governments have worked in the past, rather than how they've worked in the recent past.
Well, despite the slide in the polls here, an issue of peak interest to our viewers here. That talk about the interview with Andrew Neil on the BBC and Jeremy Corbyn's his image seemingly tarnished internationally, but how much does this affect him domestically?
Again, really difficult to say what's influencing these votes. The most obvious thing seems to be Brexit. And what we're seeing by the Conservatives potentially winning seats in the north of England is that may well be what has pushed people to change to a Conservative vote where they might have voted perhaps for Labour in the past. That's a very big change ideologically, but when it comes to Brexit, Labour has positioned itself as the party of giving the people a second referendum on a revised deal. And those leavers in the north of England, working class Leave voters, maybe don't feel that that's going to result in the Brexit they wanted. The Conservatives have said that they are the party of Brexit and they'll get it done quickly as possible. When it comes to anti-Semitism, yes, it's been very much in the news over the last few days especially, and over the last few years since Jeremy Corbyn has been leader. No one really knows whether that moral story is one that affects the decisions of ordinary voters who have nothing to do with Jewish people. It's worth remembering in all these discussions, especially on our channel, that Jews make up less than 1% of the population in the United Kingdom, which means just by definition that most people in the country probably have never met a Jewish Briton. So are they bothered by the idea of anti-Semitism? Perhaps they are, on the basis of it being a form of racism, but perhaps they're not when it doesn't really have a concrete effect on their lives.
Now you talk about the true minority that the Jewish community is there. Is the community's stance against Corbyn now, is there a danger of politicizing anti-Semitism?
Well, without doubt, anti-Semitism has been politicized insofar as it's become one of the major stories and issues for debate in this general election process, with the chief rabbi of the United Kingdom coming out over the last few days saying that he didn't think that people should vote for Labour, more or less, though he held back from saying exactly that. He did criticize the Labour Party and said that people should vote with their conscience and that this was an issue of the soul of the whole country. So this is unprecedented in that respect, and it has politicized the issue. But then others say, why shouldn't it be politicized? The issue of the persecution of a minority, the issue of specifically the persecution of Jewish people within living memory of the Holocaust within Europe, all of these things mean that it's of course a political issue if Jews feel unsafe in the country. And if 80% plus of British Jews in polls think that Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party itself, potential future Prime Minister, is an actual anti-Semite, there's no way really that I think anti-Semitism could stay out of politics.
Jonathan Sacerdoti, always framing it nicely for us. Thank you for joining.